Welcome back to Encyclopedia.Zone. My name is Don Jolly. I am a freelance writer whose work has appeared in the Los Angeles Review of Books, the Revealer magazine, among others. I am also the editor-in-chief of Encyclopedia.Zone, the internet's premier home for literary shitposting. Check it out if you're into that kind of thing. And today, we got a movie review. I just watched Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. Thanksgiving was last week, and what entertainment choice can the whole family agree on? Martin Scorsese, man. He's got something for everybody. Goodfellas, The Departed, The Aviator, The Wolf of Wall Street, Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. Marty has earned his place in the pantheon of American film directors over a long career by building one of the most diverse, effective, and beloved filmographies in the admittedly short history of the medium. Even his closest peers, filmmakers like the Coen brothers and Quentin Tarantino, are so clearly in debt to Scorsese that he stands head and shoulders above them. Watch The Last Temptation of Christ and tell me that I'm wrong. Marty has also been in the news lately. First, in an interview promoting The Irishman, he said Marvel movies are not, in the strictest sense, cinema. This upset idiots on Twitter, and since upsetting idiots on Twitter is what the New York Times is going for right now, they offered him space in their editorial page to expand on his points. His piece was published on November 4th. In it, Martin Scorsese says that Marvel movies are sequels in name, but remakes in spirit. And everything about them is officially sanctioned because it can't really be any other way. That's the nature of modern film franchises. Market researched, audience tested, vetted, modified, re-vetted, and remodified until they're ready for consumption. On this point, I am in complete agreement with him. I wonder what he'd think of The Rise of Skywalker, although I'm pretty sure we can all imagine his response to a movie shot from the beginning to be a set of action scenes with interchangeable story beats, assembled in editing according to extensive test screenings and focus group testing. Scorsese believes in film as an art form and stands against the extremely lucrative mechanisms which seem intent on reducing it to nothing more than a series of products. I say right on. When I sat down to watch The Irishman, I was expected to be blown away. I thought it was going to be his Godfather, his Once Upon a Time in America, a gangster epic to end all gangster epics, which would use the death of Jimmy Hoffa as a lens through which to show the ultimate downfall of the mob and its assassination by the confluence of corporate interest and the United States government. As Qui-Gon Jinn says, there's always a bigger fish. And at the end of the day, the gangland world Scorsese has so successfully mined is penny ante compared to the criminal activity of bankers and presidents. Maybe you'll be able to see the movie I expected in there in the 3.5 hours of The Irishman squatting across the Netflix server racks, but you might have to squint. The Irishman isn't a bad movie, but it's far from being one of Scorsese's best. It's overlong, thematically shallow, and visually muddy, peppered with computer-generated images and post-production zooms. It features truly excellent performances, an engaging, if repetitious, story, and it lacks something crucial that so many other Scorsese pictures have in spades. Nobody working in film today is as entertaining, minute by minute, scene by scene, song by song, as Martin Scorsese. Goodfellas, try to watch Goodfellas without being entertained. I dare you. The Last Temptation is about the tensions between the human and divine within Jesus of Nazareth, and it is fast-paced, colloquial, and fun to watch. Scorsese is a great filmmaker in part because he is a great entertainer. Like Orson Welles before him, he has mastered the art of taking great themes and pairing them with dazzling presentation that make his pictures super compelling viewing. He didn't need a cinematic universe or a brand name or a focus group to make Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore or Mean Streets or Casino. What he has is talent married with craft. The sad fact of it is that The Irishman isn't an entertaining movie. I was engaged by its story of aging and the cost of choosing fealty over friendship, but I wasn't entertained. In the context of Scorsese's promotional confrontation with Disney/Marvel, this leaves me more than a little concerned. If this film is the antidote to the shallow, endlessly repeating Marvel formula, which entertains without engaging its audience on a deeper emotional or intellectual level, the implication of it is that entertainment now belongs to the megacorps, or even that it is somehow distasteful, a mark of artistic inferiority. I don't think that's the point Scorsese was trying to make at all, but I worry nevertheless that it's the point many potential viewers of The Irishman will walk away with. To a young kid curious about what cinema is now that he's heard Iron Man ain't it, The Irishman paints a drab picture. Its cinema is 3.5 hours long, 70-year-old men talking, often, in fact, repeating the same conversation ad infinitum. Cinema is more than half an hour of screen time devoted to the gradual decay of physical faculties and social relevance that accompanies getting older. Cinema, to this prospective viewer, is boring, in other words, and that's a shame. Nobody has ever been bored by The Wolf of Wall Street or Scorsese's remake of Cape Fear. The guy has it in him to confront Disney and Marvel on their home turf and win. Paul Thomas Anderson is a great filmmaker, but he will never make a film that will hold 12-year-olds entertained. Scorsese, though, kids love Goodfellas. It, like many of his flicks, moves at a freight train clip, has a great soundtrack, and gives its stellar cast scene after scene of badass, memorable, and funny dialogue. The Irishman is interesting, but once again, it's not a bad film. But it's slow-paced, it's not funny, and it tends to hit the same narrative beats over and over. Ironically, most conversations about it center on its digital effects, which is usually the kind of faint praise reserved for Marvel pictures. As more and more of our social and cultural lives are consumed by the mega corporations and their various cultural machinery, there is a real danger in seceding ground, of giving up things like entertainment to those entities that we wish to oppose. In the struggle against prefabricated total commodity culture, the first and strongest drive is to make our work, and perhaps ourselves, into the antithesis of the mechanisms of corporatism. But those mechanisms work not solely because they are forced upon us, but because they have mechanized extant cultural strategies, which the corporations employ because they are effective. Entertaining stories attract audiences, so of course the Marvel movies and similar products strive to be entertaining. But entertainment itself is not a marker of shallowness or cynical engineering. Shakespeare was an entertainer, so was Homer, Hitchcock, and Orson Welles. I'd much rather watch Citizen Kane than Ant-Man 2, and not because the former is a quote-unquote great film. I love Kane because I love its characters, from little Mr. Bernstein and his phantom girl getting off the ferry to Susan Alexander weeping in the back booth of the El Rancho. I love the score. I love the quick cuts traversing years of time. I watch Kane and I smile ear to ear because it's fun to watch. I remember it. I watched Ant-Man 2 riding a bus last year, and the only thing I remember about it is that I couldn't take a shit because a junkie had nodded off in the bathroom. Overall, as I said, The Irishman is not a bad movie. It has some stellar components that, in my opinion, don't quite gel. But it's the wrong movie for the cultural conversation surrounding it. It's very possible for something artistically legitimate and free of franchise association to exceed its commodity competitors on the level of pure entertainment. It's very possible for Scorsese to be the one to make that film, but The Irishman ain't it, sadly. Maybe these franchise pictures will keep dominating the multiplex until a few of them flop, and the tremendous investment they require starts to look risky to the studios. As we approach December, I think everyone should ask themselves, what would be more entertaining? A pointless J.J. Abrams retread of a goofy space movie from the 70s? Or the look on Bob Iger's face when he has to tell his shareholders that his Frankenstein flick bit absolute dick on opening weekend? Choose wisely, film friends. Anyway, that's our review of The Irishman. Much more coming up from Encyclopedia.zone this week and in the weeks ahead. Thank you very much for supporting us, and check out my Patreon in the link below if you want to help us keep making content here at Encyclopedia.zone. This is Don Jolly signing off.